Episode 5 of me teaching you how to teach your kids the Bible. Today we're doing a favorite classic, can't go wrong, Psalm 23. When I'm studying the Bible with my kids, I use 4 main steps. So we read it, we define it, we explain it, and then we apply it. And define and explain can often almost happen in the same step. So we'll see how this goes. I don't ever prepare for these, by the way. I just start and go, and whatever happens, happens. So, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So when I'm studying a longer passage with them, when I'm doing the shorter verses, you guys know the first thing I say is, what do you think that means? But there's a lot going on there. So I would say, okay, what hit you from that chapter? And I would just see what they had to say, because sometimes they'll bring up things and then we'll just talk about that. And before you know it, we're 10 minutes down a rabbit trail. So after I asked them that, I would kind of start at the beginning. Okay, the Lord is my shepherd, defining it. What is a shepherd? He's someone who takes care of sheep, right? So if God is our shepherd, then what are we? We're his sheep. What does a shepherd do for his sheep? He takes care of them. He provides for them. He loves them. He keeps them from harm. He keeps them going where they need to go, right? Those would all be things to talk about. But here it starts out, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I think David here is really thinking of God as his provider. Everything he has is given to him. Do you think the sheep wonder where they're going to get grass the next day? No. Do you think the sheep wonder, how are we going to get water? No, they know the shepherd's going to take care of them. Do we trust God like that? Do we worry about where our next meal is going to come from? Or do we go, you know what? God's my shepherd. Like, he's got me. The next part, he makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me beside the still waters. Does that sound like a happy place or a sad place to be? Happy place, obviously, right? God is our shepherd and he's leading us in green pastures and beside still waters. It sounds like God takes really good care of us, doesn't it? And then it says he restores my soul. Do you know what it means to restore? Restore is to like set things right again. So something's been broken, something's fallen apart. Restoring that is making it whole again, making it right again. So he restores my soul. So when our soul feels broken, when our soul feels like something is wrong, when our soul feels heavy, I needed to think about this tonight. Who is the one who restores that? Who is the one who fixes that? God is. And that's a promise. He restores my soul. He will restore our souls. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. What do you think it means to be in the paths of righteousness? What's a path? The path is where you walk, right? What is righteousness? Righteousness is to do what's right, live rightly according to the Bible, live out all the things you read about in the Bible, right? A person who is kind, a person who is just, a person who speaks the truth. That's all righteousness. So he leads us on paths of righteousness. The interesting thing here is, does it say he leads us in paths of righteousness because it's really good for us? It doesn't say that. It is really good for us, right? But it says he leads us in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So much of what we do and so much of what God does, it is for our benefit. It does benefit us, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is for his name's sake, for his glory, that he can be exalted. So the next question that would come up is, well, what happens when life isn't perfect, right? When we're not walking in the green pastures and still waters? What happens when life gets scary or life gets hard? Where do you think God is when life is scary or life is hard? That'd be an interesting question to ask your kids, right? Well, the Psalm says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. That sounds terrifying, doesn't it? Like, this is not a good place to be. You know what he says? I will fear no evil. He's not scared at all. He's out there walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Picture you're a sheep. To me, that valley is like full of wolves and it's dark and there's scary things behind the rocks coming out at you, right? What do you think the valley of the shadow of death could look like in your life? Your kids probably have a million answers. When things are going wrong for you, when things seem like you don't know how they're going to work out, right? I will fear no evil. He just makes a statement. He's like, I will fear no evil. This is a choice he's making. Why can we fear no evil? For you are with me. You are with me. That is the reason that we can be bold in our life. That is the reason that we can have confidence. That is the reason that no matter what happens, we're good. We don't have to fear because God is with us. The next part is interesting. It's actually something a lot of people kind of debate about the meaning of. It says, for your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And when I'm talking to my kids, I just tell them this. I tell them people's different views on the Bible and say, some people think this, some people think that. This is what I tend to think. As you get older and you study the Bible more, you can figure out what you think it means. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So a lot of people take this and they say that whenever the Bible talks about the rod of discipline, it's not really talking about it like a rod of discipline, because this verse says the rod comforts you. So the rod is something used for comfort. I believe that the disciplines of God comfort us. And right now, we're just here talking about the valley of the shadow of death. A lot of times, trials in our life are to refine us. The trials in our lives are the rod, not to punish us. Jesus took our punishment on the cross, but they are there to refine us, to rub off our sharp edges and make us more like Christ, to sanctify us. A lot of times, sanctification in our life happens through trials. But through all of that, God is there with you. When a shepherd has a rod and a staff, what do you think he does with them? Let's see what your kids say. Have you ever worked with sheep? I have worked with sheep. Daddy, my husband, has worked with sheep a lot. You have a rod and a staff, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but you guide the sheep with them. Sometimes, oftentimes, sheep are horrifically stubborn and very stupid, and you have to get after the sheep with the rod. But you get after them to keep them safe. You get after them to keep them on the path they need to be on. And that's often how God uses trials in our life is, hey, you need sanctification in this area of your life. You have a big sin here that you're blind to. And he brings those trials, but they are comforting to us because they are making us more like him. I always go to Hebrews 12 where it says, no punishment for the moment seems pleasant, but rather painful. But in the end, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. I think that's Hebrews 12. That's how I interpret that verse. Then there's some more promises here. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. What does it mean to be in the presence of your enemies? It means to be where they are, right? So God is preparing this table right in front of his enemies. And when it says God prepares a table there, like this is a feast, right? He's preparing a feast there for you to feast and make merry and enjoy the good gifts of God right there with your enemies watching. You anoint my head with oil and my cup runs over. Do you know what it means to have your head anointed with oil? Oftentimes in the Psalms and in the Old Testament, it's just a picture of God's blessing, pouring out the oil of blessing on your head and your cup's running over. You fill your cup up with water out of the sink, right? Fills all the way up and then it just is spilling over. Water's running out everywhere. That's how our life is when God is our shepherd. We have so much that we have abundance. We don't even know what to do with it. We have so many blessings. And this last verse. Apparently I shouldn't do these videos when I'm tired at night because I get emotional. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Something I love about what David does is he often just makes these statements that he is so confident in. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He's not like, man, I hope I get to heaven. He's sure of it. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And he did it in verse 4 where he said, I will fear no evil. I shall not want. These are like, he's telling his soul, don't fear evil. Stand on the promises of God that you know. Stand in who God is. And I love that picture of goodness and mercy following. It's like no matter where you go, the goodness of God and the mercy of God is just right there with you. And lastly, I would take this scripture and apply it to their life. There's so many ways you could do this. I mean, you could do a couple hours sermon on this chapter, but one of the main things that you can pull out of here that I'll probably go to is like, okay, so when you are feeling scared, when you're feeling sad, when you're feeling down about yourself, when you're feeling doubts, what does this chapter give you? This chapter gives you promises that God is your shepherd. He will lead you in green pastures. He will restore your soul. He will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. You don't have to fear evil. He's there with you. Even if it's hard, even if you're getting sanctified, even if it's scary, he is there with you. And at the very end of it all, no matter how hard our life here on earth is, what is the promise that we have the hope of? Heaven, right? And the Bible uses the hope of heaven often to motivate the Christian, to comfort the Christian, to give hope to the Christian. Often, like I feel like once you see it everywhere. I was talking to my oldest, my 9-year-old, about this because he ran into it in the New Testament. And God doesn't just say, here, live a good life and end it there. Like he says, live for Jesus because you have the hope of heaven. You have this huge reward. And I think, like, we talk about heaven, but we really don't think that much about heaven. I think heaven is just going to be so much more than we can even, like, it's going to be so cool. Heaven is going to be so cool. That promise is right here in Psalm 23, that giving him hope, giving him courage, giving him perseverance to get through this life. So to my children, even if this life is hard and difficult, what can you take hope in? That we have the hope of heaven. And that's how I would go through Psalm 23 with my children. So what verses should we look at next?